At 78, Emmylou Harris finally speaks about John Denver. Emmylou Harris was born on April 2, 1947 in Birmingham, Alabama, one of the most influential voices in American music, respected for her soaring vocals, her heart-wrenching songwriting, and her being able to effortlessly navigate the lines between country, folk, rock, and Americana. Early on, Harris displayed both academic and artistic talent. She was raised in a military family. Her father was a Marine Corps officer who was a prisoner of war in Korea, and this gave her a sense of toughness and resilience that would be reflected later in her music. She attended the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and studied drama, but was increasingly fascinated by folk music, inspired by such musical artists as Joan Baez, Bob Dylan, and Pete Seeger. This passion for music would later draw her away from school and into a career that would forever change the face of American roots music. Early years as a musician were not easy. Having come to New York City in the late 1960s, she sang in Greenwich Village coffee houses at the peak of the folk revival. As was true for many young artists of her time, she lived on meager paychecks and odd jobs while pursuing the precarious dream of earning a living as a musician. It was at this time that she issued her first album, Gliding Bird, 1969, an album that foreshadowed her ability but did not yet gain her mass acclaim. Personal difficulties such as a failed marriage and the burden of motherhood tried her spirit, but she never gave up. Her life and career were forever changed in the early 1970s when she encountered the iconic country rock performer Graham Parsons. Parsons, who was also a member of the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers, saw Harris's incredible singing talent and asked her to sing harmony with him. Their musical collaboration was short but very influential. With him, she recorded GP 1973 and Grievous Angel 1974, records which are now regarded as landmarks in country rock history. Harris's crystalline harmonies took Parsons's music to a higher level, while his mentorship exposed her to the rich history of traditional country music. Sadly, Parsons was killed in a drug overdose in 1973, a loss that devastated Harris, but also inspired her to take up his musical vision. She always spoke about Parsons as her musical soulmate, and throughout her life, she honored his memory, making certain that his trailblazing spirit was never lost. With Parsons' passing, Harris began her own solo career with new dedication. Signing with Reprise Records, she put out Pieces of the Sky in 1975, which became a star-making album. The record included her own mix of classic country ballads, modern covers, and her own special style, and it launched her onto a much broader stage. Classics, such as If I Could Only Win Your Love, proved that she could take every song and make it her own, whether it was something classic or something new. She simply followed that up with a line of critically acclaimed records: Elite, Hotel, 1975, Luxury Liner, 1977, and Quarter Moon in a 10-Cent Town, 1978, each establishing her as one of the most original and versatile artists in the industry. One of the most unique aspects of Harris's career is her willingness to collaborate. She was surrounded by incredibly gifted musicians, among them the Hot Band, which included then-young Rodney Crowell and virtuoso guitarist Albert Lee. Later, she joined forces with Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt on the trio recordings, producing some of country music's most gorgeous three-part harmonies. She sang duets and collaborations across genres and generations with Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Neil Young, and Bob Dylan, as well as newer artists such as Buddy Miller, Guylian Welch, and Ryan Adams. This artistic generosity of spirit not only broadened her musical scope, but also made bridges between traditional country music, modern folk, and rock. Harris's artistry has always been very personal and at times spiritual. Her songs often deal with themes of love, loss, longing, redemption, and seeking meaning. She has never hesitated to be vulnerable, and the capacity to move raw human emotion into music is part of the reason why what she does speaks so forcibly. Releases such as Wrecking Ball, 1995, Daniel Lanore's production, were dramatic departures from her previous country roots, adopting ethereal atmospheres and experimental production techniques without sacrificing the emotional candor that characterizes her music. This risk-taking attitude made her career youthful and viable decades after decades, appealing not just to country listeners, but to alternative and indie fans as well. Aside from music, Emmylou Harris is also revered for her compassionate heart and unassuming strength. She has been involved in animal rights activism, setting up Bonaparte's Retreat, a rescue center that seeks to save dogs from being euthanized. She has also used her voice and platform to support causes including landmine eradication, disaster relief efforts, and veteran support. Her activism, as with her music, is an extension of her empathy and responsibility toward the larger world. Throughout her career, Harris has been awarded numerous honors and awards such as 14 Grammy Awards, being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame 2008 and the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award 2018. These awards, although high-profile, are only just beginning to tell her story. She has been an inspiration to countless musicians, both stars and up-and-coming songwriters, and her music remains a benchmark for those who see the power of music to heal, bring together, and overcome boundaries. Emmylou Harris has lived the multifaceted experience of love, matrimony, and family life in 3 marriages that each have left their own mark on her personal path. She has publicly labeled herself as a really good ex-wife, a statement that demonstrates her kindness, integrity, and the self-awareness she applied to her marriages, acknowledging the happiness and difficulties of marriage without resentment. Her own first serious romantic chapter began in 1969 when she encountered fellow folk artist Tom Sloum while residing in the bohemian center of New York City's Greenwich Village, a community world famous for its creative buzz and active folk music culture. Their mutual aesthetic tastes and idealism of youth prompted them to wed the same year, uniting their business and personal life amid a time of dramatic cultural and musical transformation in America. In 1970, Harris and Sloum's first daughter, Hallie, was born. The birth of the child registered a deep change in Harris as she sought to balance the demands of a growing career with the demands of motherhood. Life on the road as a performing artist was not easy, but she insisted on bringing Hallie along with her on tours in the early part of her career so that the child would at least be partially integrated into her life. However, Harris made the painful choice to have Hallie live most of the time with her grandparents in Maryland, aware that perpetual travel could not replace stability and a down-to-earth upbringing. Looking back, Harris openly stated, "I don't think the road is good for kids. Once in a while, it's fun like a trip to Disneyland, but not as a way of life," emphasizing her thoughtful consideration of what was really in her daughter's best interest. Eventually, Harris and Sloum's union was dissolved by divorce in 1971 after only 2 years together, ending her first long-term relationship attempt. A few years later, Harris fell in love again, this time with her producer Brian Ahern. Their partnership developed into a personal commitment that led to their marriage in 1977 at Ahern's house in Halifax, Nova Scotia, a place that reflected their shared love of intimacy as well as the natural environment surrounding them. After the marriage, the couple moved to Studio City, Los Angeles, California, a place famous for its association with the entertainment industry, where Harris could continue pursuing her music career while establishing a life with her children. In 1979, Harris and Ahern gave birth to their second child, Megan, adding more facets to Harris's role as a mother. This time was a mix of domestic duty and artistic development, as Harris balanced motherhood with a career that was quickly taking off. Nonetheless, despite the mutual history and artistic chemistry, the marriage dissolved in divorce in 1984, leading Harris to move to Nashville, Tennessee, an event that would prelude the next installment of both her personal and professional life. Harris's third marriage was in 1985 when she married songwriter and producer Paul Kennerly. The union was based on a mutual love of music and storytelling. And for a few years, Harris and her family resided in an older house close to Nashville's famous Music Row, the center of the city's country music business. This site enabled Harris to stay closely involved with her work, while also offering a family setting filled with inspiration. In spite of these common values and her musical partnership with Harris and Kennerly's marriage, like her first two, eventually dissolved in divorce in 1993. All of them, however, helped inform Harris's ideas about love, family, and life on the road, leaving her with a sophisticated appreciation for the pleasures as well as the intricacies of deep relationships. For many years, the fans of Emmylou Harris and John Denver have wondered about the nature of their relationship, their sporadic collaborations, and the profound respect they appear to have for each other as musicians. While Harris has long been reluctant to talk about her personal relationships with other artists, particularly those of Denver's level, she has now, at the age of 78, opened up in a rare and emotional interview, revealing the connection they shared and the enduring influence Denver had on her career and personal life. Harris, whose soaring vocals and ability to blend country, folk, and rock influences seamlessly, started off describing what John Denver was like offstage from the stage persona people all over the globe loved. John was first and foremost real. She described gently. He wasn't pretentious. The guy you heard singing Take Me Home Country Roads was the same guy you'd see backstage or on a quiet stroll out in the hills. He had faith in the goodness of nature, in human kindness, and in music as a common denominator that could bring people together. That wasn't a pose. It was him. She continued to tell how their lives intersected at the height of the 1970s folk and country boom when Harris was emerging onto the scene and Denver was already a worldwide star. Their approaches to music complemented each other in unexpected ways. And although they never did record an entire album together, their live acts, whether in benefit shows or special performances, still continue to be fondly remembered by fans. Singing with John was natural, Harris smiled. Our voices just seemed to get along. He had this crisp, sweeping tenor. And when I'd enter with a harmony, it was like we were creating something greater than both of us. There are times in music when you don't have to think. You just feel. And that's what it was like with him. As she spoke, the tone of Harris became more contemplative as she referenced the tragic fate of Denver's life in 1997 when he perished in a plane crash at the ripe age of 53. Even after all these years, the memory is hard for her. I don't think anyone who knew him ever got over that loss, she conceded. It was unexpected, it was shocking, and it seemed so wrong. John had so much more to offer. He had this light, this energy that was supposed to be here for a while longer. When I heard it, I just sat in a daze for hours. I think some part of me didn't want to believe it. But Harris was also quick to point out that though Denver's life was too short, his legacy lives very strongly through his music and through environmental causes he supported. John was ahead of his time in all things, she said. He was deeply concerned about the earth, about protecting nature, about encouraging us to be guardians of this planet. Well, before climate change and conservation were de rigueur topics of conversation, John was standing up on his soapbox and telling us, we need to take care of this place we call home. And not in a judgmental, preachy voice, but with passion through song.